Perfect. So we are now on YouTube. We are also recording. I will make a very brief introduction in 2 minutes. Like this, everyone can be comfortable in his sofa or share. I don't know where people are. Okay, Vanessa. So we still have 2 minutes. Okay, let's start. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon. Buenos días a todos. Welcome to this Berkeley Global Society Conference. We will talk about sustainable finance. And we are delighted today to be in Colombia for this series of events in South and Central America. Like all the time, our purpose is to impact, is to learn from each other, but it's also to produce analysis, dialogue, and dialogue in order to propose altogether new models and new paradigms. I'm very glad that today this event will be diffused all over the world via 2 channels. We are expecting around 300 people. I would like to warmly thank all the people joining us, all the experts from Colombia. We are very curious about Colombia. This is the first time we are having an event, so we are looking forward to learn about this country. Also, I would like to warmly thank Vanessa Bedoya Becerra for your work, because you were the one putting together all those experts. Vanessa, you are involved in many different projects. You are teaching at the university. You are also working with the university, and you are a Berkeley Global Society member. You graduated some years ago at the University of UC Berkeley. Once again, Vanessa, thank you for organizing this event, and we are looking forward to learn from you. The floor is yours, Vanessa.
Well, first of all, good morning from this side of the world. Thank you, Van, for the introduction. My name is Vanessa Bedoya. I am a Berkeley Global Society member. I want to thank Van. I want to thank all the Berkeley Global Society team that helped us and support us. Emma, or Emma, I don't know if I'm pronouncing it well. VP, Rita as well. And I want to welcome our speakers today, Guillermo Tejero, Luis Miguel Lancheros, Gabriel Morcillo, and Vicente Perdigon. We're really excited to share with you some highlights and perspective on sustainable finance, which is one of the recent and main topics that we're covering in Colombia, from the legal side, from the financial side, and management as well. So I hope you enjoyed, that you can learn from us, and we can learn from you as well. So please feel free to use the chat to raise questions, comments from our event. So I want to start with a general highlight of what is sustainable finance. So recently we have heard about sustainable or sustainability discourses in a lot of areas. So why this topic is being interesting for different areas, not only in the academic world, but also for practitioners. So what we understand for sustainable finance is basically financial instruments that are being used and have been used for supporting projects that have social and environmental impact. So the actors on the use of these financial instruments, they come from different backgrounds. They can be public entities, government, they can be private funds, etc. And the investments that have been made it has been done in different parts of the world. So Africa and Southeast Asia were one of the main regions that started with this impact investing initiatives, but as well Europe and United States first started thinking on how can we embed finance and purpose and impact. Um, Also, one of the main concerns right now in talking about the pandemic is to think about natural resources and how productiveness can be how can we rethink the way we make business and the way we produce products, right? So this question also raises the concern on what we're doing and what in a most general way, what caused or has caused this pandemic. So one of the many different answers that have been raised is we are actually losing habitats for different types of species, and this is causing probably this pandemic. So I think the discourse about sustainability is taking or it's being more important right now. And Colombia, as part of the Latin America series of having a part of the Amazonic rainforest and having a lot of natural resources, this is a big question for us as lawyers and for different practitioners in different areas. So in my case, I started to be interested to involve in networks in research about 3 years ago. And what surprised me at that point was how can actually business be financial, sustainable, and also can have a good impact whether on environment and a community or in society. And with this introduction, I want to open this panel, which is going to be most of it a conversation between different practitioners that have great experience in this topic, that are actually working in this topic, and that has different roles as lawyers, not only as members of big law firms, but also as entrepreneurs and also as professors. So the guiding questions for this conversation and panel today, it's going to be why sustainable finance it's important now and it's important for legal work. So thank you for being here. Thank you for joining us and welcome to this conversation. So the first question I want to raise, it's about how you guys became interested in this topic. What caught your attention about sustainable finance, and why do you think this is important for the legal world today or for lawyers whatsoever? So I want to raise the question. I'm going to start with Luzmila. Luzmila is a lawyer. She has a Master in Public Affairs from New York University. And currently, she is the Strategic Partnership Director of 2111. So she's a lawyer, entrepreneur, and also a very, very active practitioner in legal education. So Luzmila, welcome. I'm very, very happy to have you today. So tell us a little bit about your background on sustainable finance. How do you get here? And again, why do you think this is important for lawyers or for the legal world today?
Thank you, Vanessa, and thank you all for having me here today. I think that I would like to also introduce you 2811, which is our enterprise that it's called 2811. It's called like that because it was born in Chile, and the 28th of November in 2015 was the first time that Chile spent its renewable resources that were available for a calendar year. So that was the statement for us to create our enterprise. And I think that in order to give you an answer to the question of why sustainable finance called my attention, I would like to introduce a little bit what is 2811 and why we do what we do. So let me share my screen. And as you told, I'm a lawyer. I study law here in Colombia. And then I studied an MPA at NYU that was with a focus on social innovation and impact investing. So that's why the first step actually of how I got faced to sustainable finance and how like all these interested raised inside me. So let me share my screen just 1 second. Please let me know that you see it. You can see it well, and let me open it with okay, I don't know if you are seeing it. Okay, so I'm gonna do it this way so I can keep seeing you. So 2811 is a social enterprise that, as I told you, it's based in Chile, Colombia, and Germany right now. We work for changes in the present for a sustainable future, and not only for a sustainable, but for a regenerative future. And how we work is as a platform for social and ecological change that promotes social innovation and social entrepreneurship in the educational system as means to train the next generation of change agents and like that our territories need. We are really close to the educational system, mainly with the universities in Latin America, and we work very close with that network. That's our like mainly network that we have around. We work for a social and ecological change, as I told you, and as I also told you that we want to promote not only sustainable development, but a regenerative development. The areas of transformation that we work on are mostly climate action, social change, and sustainable finance. I'm gonna go very fast on climate action and social change so I can focus on sustainable finance. But on climate action, we catalyze social innovation and we do an interdisciplinary approach to developing solutions to climate change. And in social change, what we do is that we work mainly with universities, as I told you, but also we work with governments, companies like private companies, NGOs, to promote social change through innovation and social entrepreneurship mainly. And what we do is that we develop and train skills for change makers, project management, and impact measurement, most of all. To go to the topic that brings us today to this space, how do we start working on sustainable finance? This was something that we realized by working on social change and climate action. We were like very close to entrepreneurs and mostly social entrepreneurs. And we were realizing that finding funding for the entrepreneurs in general is something that is really like hard, like it's a topic that always raises in the conversations. So we realized that not only there were like a really big growing of social entrepreneurs around the world and also in Colombia, but it started also a movement of investors that were looking to invest not only to get financial revenue, but also because they wanted to make an impact. So what we started to do with 2811 was to start thinking how we can add value to the ecosystem in order to catalyze a regenerative economy. And we are going to do it through the articulation of spaces and knowledge in sustainable finance, because our DNA, as I told you, is very close to academy and how to develop skills. We want to also do this in sustainable finance. And because we have worked with universities in order to develop the social innovation ecosystem, we think that in order to develop the impact investing ecosystem and the sustainable finance ecosystem, the academy needs to be part of it. And the academy, talking about law schools, business schools, policy, like policy schools. So for me, that was something that was really needed, not only for like from the point of view as a co-founder of 2811, but also in my practice, that was one of the main reasons, because I decided to do an MPA and also to make like a broader point of view of these kind of topics. Like that was my point when I decided my graduate program. So one of the first steps that we took as 2811 was to create a platform that it's called ecosistemaimpacto.org, that I invite you all to visit us. This is a platform that we launched last year, and our main goal with this platform was to democratize information about impact investments in Colombia, but also in Latin America. we did this minimum value proposition, like this is the first step of what we want to do with Ecosistema de Impacto. If you go in this platform, you're going to find that what we did was to map around the thesis of the impact investors that are present in Colombia. And right now, what we are doing this year, we want to do, I think that that's going to happen at the very beginning of next year, is to launch an update of this platform with not only impact investors in Colombia, but also in Latin America. So what we are doing here is to open this information to entrepreneurs, to intermediaries, to government. We think that this information needs to be in one place, and not only because in this place our ecosystem impacted, but this is information that needs to be open and needs to be more easy to find to all the actors in the ecosystem. We also want to do with 2811, and like our goal with sustainable finance, as I told you, it's also to involve all actors in the conversation. And we want to do it from the point of view of academia, as we have done with other topics in social innovation and also climate change. So last year we launched our first pilot of a community that we create of professors and teachers with Tec de Monterrey in Mexico. And this was a very first pilot of a community of like learning and also like a space for reflect about the relationship with money and like all these kind of intentions of doing investments with impact. But what we are doing right now is that we want to launch next year. We are doing it right now. Laboratorio de Inversión de Impacto, which is like a impact investment lab for Latin America. That it's an upgrade of the pilot that we made with Tec de Monterrey last year. And what we want to do is like an experience for all actors. This was the way we found as 2811 as adding value for all actors in the ecosystem. So what we want to do is to train students in universities, starting by business and law schools. We want to create groups of students in universities that can do some training during the semester in impact investing, but at the same time, they can do in parallel a process of source diligence and like finding impact social entrepreneurs that they can present to a judge, to a committee and judge for a potential investor. So what we're going to do here in this like proposal that we have for the lab of impact investment is to put together all the points that we found. That is that it's a way to create pipeline for investors, because this is a problem that we can talk later in this conversation. That is the impact investors have really clear theses, but they are not finding the entrepreneurs ready to receive the funding. Also, the entrepreneur says that they don't have the visibility to impact investors, so they can see us and they can meet them. And mostly entrepreneurs in territories that are not in Bogota or Cali, but in smaller cities. Also, this is a way that we create a network. This is something that happens really similar in the States, that it's called Mint. I don't know if you have heard about it. I think that some of you have heard about this. It's like a competition that we want to create with also training. So this is a call for all of you that may be interested in being part of this experience, because we are launching in 2021 and the first semester. I don't want to keep more time. This is like the team of 2811, and you can follow us in our social media so you can learn more about the like experiences and programs that we are making right now. Thank you, Vanessa. I'm sorry if I took a long time.
No, Luzmila, thank you so much. It's a great deal what Luzmila and other colleagues are doing. And one of the questions later on, we're going to talk about what's going on in Latin America. So a sneak peek, it's the groups that are coming together, like this company, 2811, which is young people, very talented from different countries in Latin America that come together to build an ecosystem. And I want to highlight what 2811 is doing here in Colombia, and I think it's a common denominator in a lot of countries in Latin America, which is uh, there's no at least like robust information about impact investors or financial instruments that are available to social entrepreneurs. So actually what the surveys have brought is there are good ideas in the region, in Colombia and in other countries, but basically the information they need to actually fill the gap, the financial gap, to grow, to incubate, to accelerate, it's not available. So the platform that they're working on, Ecosystem Impacto, and I hope the audience can go to the site and check on it. It's basically a great attempt to have this information in one site that people can actually go to the link, go to the web page, and know that there are specialized funds or specialized financial instruments that they can help them to build and to grow. So thank you, Luzmila, for this highlight of you as a lawyer slash also a social entrepreneur that has come together with other people with the same idea and vision. I want to raise the same question to Luis Gabriel. I'm going to go again on the question, which is basically why you come to work to sustainable finance, what caught your attention, and why do you think it's important today for the legal world or for lawyers to know about this topic? And I'm going to actually make a parenthesis that I didn't do a couple of minutes ago, in which all this initiative about financial sustainable finance or innovative finance have come primarily from management schools, right? From other areas besides the legal work. So the question is why it's important for us, what brought us together towards this topic. So Luis Gabriel Morcillo, he is a current partner of Bricario Rutia, which is one of the biggest law firms here in Colombia. He's also a professor in different universities in Bogota. He has an LLM from University College London and has a great experience in capital markets. So Luis Gabriel, welcome to this conversation, and the stage is yours.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Vanessa. And of course, everybody that is watching us right now, thank you for the space of time to really talk a little bit on how lawyers could really contribute to the impact investing and sustainable finance ecosystem. Actually, this could run as my personal story. Of course, I want to share with you how being a capital markets lawyer over 15 years and working heavily on financial transactions and stock exchange, market deals and M&A activities, everything was a number of investors and interests and a lot of capital deployed, always changing hands, always doing investings and pursuing huge returns and watching a lot of interest going into financial returns. It came to me, of course, at a point in time, how such level of complexity, sophistication, regulation that we had in the capital markets activity with a lot of inflow from many sources could be really deployed into something that was a real necessity in a country as it is ours in Colombia, and how we can really contribute to bring in all that sophistication and financial regulation to an area of work that really could be let's say a niche to really create new lawyers, new interests, and of course to help our environment and society. We started by doing some research and works for impact investing funds. In Colombia, private equity is quite a novel industry, and we had some 5 or 6 years ago the first impact investing fund that we tried to raise capital from institutional investors. Of course, they were looking more on the financial side, how to gain and the IIRs and how to really gain some money back. But the impact fund ecosystem is of course, as you know, one that really cares on other types of returns. And the discussions with institutional investors were completely opposite. We didn't get to channel their interest on how to, of course, they due themselves to to their investors. But again, those pension fund managers didn't saw any benefit from investing into impact investing funds. So we had long discussions how to really deploy those capitals into social entrepreneurs, environmental projects, agricultural projects that in Colombia, of course, were needing a lot of capital. That idea of the fund was really a success, and the fund is really something to show to many impact investors in Colombia, which is called Fondo Inversor in Colombia. And we try to take that example to other levels. We saw, of course, an additional interest from many international players coming to the country after we gained investment grade rating, after we passed of course, the 4 years ago, the peace treaty in Colombia. There's an interest on a cash flow of institutional investors that want to also invest, of course, in impact investing. And our rules are not prepared for that. We still have the same financial regulation. We have still the same standards of how the minimum returns should serve institutional investors and, of course, private interests. As a lawyer, and for this industry to grow, impact investing industry, sustainable finance, innovative finance, anything of this sort of change of mind needs to have and needs lawyers to eventually be involved to create a legal framework. I think structures that allow efficient markets to flourish need the legal framework. We cannot continue to see this as something that is an impact that is created by a result, like externalities of a principal activity. We really need to create this industry as an industry itself. And for that, we need to create regulations. There needs to be a rule of law, set of market rules, legislation, regulatory framework, everything which is necessary to an industry to achieve a higher scale, a real scale. Otherwise, this industry would be like the Wild West, everybody looking into their interests without standards, without parameters. So we need to create that rule of law. And it comes to for example, when you see those social impact funds or pay for success activities, which were actually the very first activities that begin this social impact investing. Those social impact bonds are not other than a set of contracts where you have the interests of several counterparties, you have several interests, several returns that must be allocated, risk allocated, risk management, and everything goes to a number of probably 6 or 7 contracts that deal with relationship between the impact that you want to cause, let's say the people that you are addressing, the employments you want to create. Then you have the benefactors, the entrepreneurs, then you have the administrator, then you have the financial intermediaries, etc. You have a number of players, and that's the best example of how rules need to be created to standardize those pay for success financing. It's quite a revolutionary way of injecting capital to produce impact. And in many cases, yet some of the return is not measured by the impact they cause. Of course, it's the interest, but then you have some players where you need to give them some rules so they can receive their impact, their return back. And at the same time, cause the impact you need to have. And by virtue of probably losing all the money, but causing a huge impact, you need to have a clear set of rules that doesn't trigger any damages or compensation or breach of contracts, etc., because the interest at the end was causing the impact, not returning the money back. So you need to be protected as an investor and as a manager, that you're going to manage everything within a set of rules that are not going to cause you any claim or breach of any duties. And that's why we started working on how to standardize those set of rules, having like a standard sponsorship program for impact investing funds, a standard rules for those impact funds, a standard rules for compensation schemes, a standard loan agreements for low budget agreements, a standard M&A and SPA purchase, share purchase agreements very low cost, because everything on the impact investing cost consists of a knowledge that probably is very, very expensive, and we need to lower that by disseminating knowledge, granting access. That's why these educational efforts, as Luzmila was mentioning, the Berkeley Society is working on that. Of course, we saw a number of universities working on how to expand the knowledge on impact investing in order to really give access to knowledge, and that entrepreneurs could benefit from templates, contracts, agreements, everything that can contribute significantly to lowering the cost of creating these structures. And that's in our firm. As if I may mention a little bit of what we do, is to create that practice in a traditional law firm, almost 90 years of traditional law firm business, law firm, where we need to create a practice, and probably my colleague Guillermo is going to refer to that in a while, because we really need to create a practice which is not something that you are going to see as a part of a better practice group. It is a practice group itself. So we don't have labor law, commercial law, aeronautical laws, etc. We need to have social impact law, and we need to create experts on that, and that they see the efforts and all the activities entrepreneurs are now doing as a real practice, and nothing that is like a touching basis on X or Y aspects, but to really have everything and all the knowledge and the experts inside, watching at all angles 360 on what can be done to bring impact to our society. So that's my experience, more or less. We are really working on the firm, and we are part of many organizations and social organizations that are building this ecosystem in the country. Personally, I am member of the board of the National Advisory Board of GSG Group in Colombia, which has just 2 months of being created. So it's another layer of the effort we are creating to connect all the individuals that in Colombia, and institutional investors, and of course academic interests, are somehow better organized but yet scattered on a society that really needs now to point on seeing impact investing not as an externality, but as a real asset class for investors. Okay.
Well, Luis Gabriel, thank you so much. It's really interesting what you bring to the table today, not only from your experience, but also from the switch that big law firms such as Vicario Urrutia has made to actually embed and think about sustainability as something not only financially sustainable, but necessary for the country. And what you touch on, the rule of law and why lawyers should step in this area, why we're necessary. Also, I think deals with the idea that businesses have changed, right? The way we make business, it's not the way we traditionally have thought about them. So thank you, Luis Gabriel. I want to link your experience and also how these big law firms, such as Vicario Urrutia, have switched or has bring in to as a area of practice sustainable business, sustainable finance, impact investing. So I want to welcome Guillermo Tejero. He is head of the Environment and Sustainable Business Area Department at Vicario Urrutia also. He has a master in Maastricht University, and also has a great deal of experience in renewable energy, and has worked with different agencies in government related to environmental law. So welcome, Guillermo. And again, the same questions. We want to hear about your experience, why sustainable finance or impact investing has caught your attention. And from your perspective, I'm working at a big law firm. Why do you think this is important for lawyers today to think about, to actually step in, to study, to get involved, etc.? So thank you and welcome.
Thank you very much, Vanessa, and thank you to all of the panelists and attendees to this event. which is a great opportunity to share with you some of my thoughts and our thoughts on sustainable finance and sustainability as a whole. So as you said, I am an environmental lawyer, and I prefer to call myself nowadays as a sustainability lawyer. And this has a reasoning behind which I would like to share with you. So when I began to study law and became involved in sustainability and environmental issues, uh, I noticed that we as lawyers have a big responsibility to shape things, to promote behavioral and structural changes within our society. So I believe that law has that capacity of bringing together a lot of interests and putting them or channeling them towards a specific goal, which is, of course, to have a better world. And this might sound as romantic, but in my experience at least, was the reason why I became an environmental lawyer. And when we go into the history of environmental law, and I myself, I'm a professor in environmental law for the last 10 years as well. So I always try to teach my students that the reasoning behind saying that we have to change the world is that things have to, move from this mindset of capital markets and gaining only, financial revenues, to this new mindset in which social and environmental benefits are met and are achieved. And to do so, environmental law has been devoted to enforcement. So talking about enforcement from an environmental law perspective, we have recognized that the unfeasibility of the enforcement by confrontational means. So it is clear for environmental lawyers that we need to foster behavioral changes and structural changes through other means. And and talking about enforcement, environmental law enforcement is important in this discussion, because one of the main tools in order to foster environmental and social benefits as enforcement, as mandated by law, is to ensure that financial means are there to channel um, the necessary financial flows uh, to cope with all the necessities that the society is looking for. So yes, I strongly agree with your statement on saying that businesses are changing. I do believe that they are changing, and mostly and moreover, I believe that we as lawyers or environmental lawyers or sustainability lawyers are seeing this changes occur in a very specific way. So when we were talking about green finance, the very first stage of green finance was generally addressed to greening general environmental aid. So everything was pointing out, to a more uh, uh, um, let's say international cooperation issue, like channeling money between states in order to promote environmental compliance and to foster capacity building for the states and so on and so forth. So we have some examples on international environmental law addressing that greening general environmental aid, like the LANE Convention or the Cotonou Convention, which I'm sure you're familiarized with. And then we have this second tier environmental funding discussions that took place within the international environmental law arena, which were more addressed, to treaty-specific resources. So our environmental law treaties developed or tried at least to develop specific financial instruments in order to promote the funding needed in order to enforce those mandates of international environmental law. But everything, and this is particularly important from 1992 onwards with the United Nations Convention on Environment and Development. So in Rio, we clearly changed the mindset, and we said, okay, in order to promote a better society, we need capacity building. We knew that, but we also need to promote financial and technological transfer, environmental education and training in order to prepare the society as a whole for the changes that we want to see in practice. So for a country like Colombia, and this is something important to say, Colombia is the second most mega diverse country in the world. We have more than 74 ethnicities. We have a lot of differences in our country that we must tackle, you know, and those reflections on capacity building, financial and technological transfers, and so on and so forth, were mainly addressed by means of international treaties. Nowadays, what we see and the rationale behind us doing what we're doing is that we understand that, as you said, Vanessa, the world has changed. And as Luis Gabriel and Luzmila pointed out as well, world has changed. So in order to tackle those necessities, we need to understand that financial means are uh, or have an indissoluble relationship with environmental and social enforcement from an environmental law perspective. But moreover, they have the capacity to change the mindset of private investors in order to do things in the right way. So we of course, have been looking into this new trend of impact investing and ESG criteria and all the things that are currently being discussed within our jurisdiction, not only from an environmental law perspective, but as Luis Gabriel was pointing out, from a sustainability law perspective. So when we talk about sustainability law, we're talking about the need to join efforts from all law perspectives in order to have this very broad set of rules, regulations, and principles that are able to guide the actions of our clients, and mostly to 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 see beneficials, let's say, results from a social and environmental perspectives arising from the projects that we promote. So that is the reason why we do have a sustainability practice in our law firm. That is why we strongly believe on the need to continue promoting this new mindset and fostering from a law perspective what we need to do in order to materialize this new society that we dream of. That's basically the reasoning behind it.
Well, thank you, Guillermo, for your intervention. I think it's quite inspiring, and I like the part what you mentioned about romanticism and an idealistic idea. I don't think sustainability, and I myself like to recognize as a sustainable lawyer. I think it's like more comprehensive of what this means. And this is no longer a romantic an idea. And I think what we see right now, not only the world has changed or the world is changing, it's what's going on. This is not no longer a discourse, as I sometimes call like a hippie, a dippy discourse. This is a real discourse, absolutely necessary. And what we see right now is big companies such as multinationals, Unilever, here in Latin America, a great company that deals and has been a pioneer in this type of business model, which is Natura. They're being part of this, right? So this is no longer a discourse of small entrepreneurs or idealistic or juvenile ideas, but also ideas and necessities that comes from big companies and also from big law firms. So I totally agree with Guillermo on the sense that law it's a very powerful tool to transform not only society but practices as well. And the need of regulation comes not only on being involved on public policies making process, but also from our daily basis activities and practice. So thank you, Guillermo, for that inspiring message. And now I want to bring the question to Vicente Servigon. Vicente is close friend, also Berkeley alumni. He's professor at ESPOL in Ecuador. He's also co-founder of Matter, his own company that is an impact organization. And with him, I think we have started a shared path on sustainability 3 years ago when we attended an event in San Francisco. So I'm very glad to be here. Vicente, welcome. And again, same question. What caught your attention and actually why it has maintained during these 3 years? And why do you think it's important for us lawyers to think about and to involve in sustainable finance / impact investing initiatives? Welcome.
Okay, Vanessa, thank you very much for the invitation. And Alvin, congratulations for gathering this group, this Berkeley Global Society. It's amazing work that you have been doing. Well, by training, really, I'm a lawyer, but approximately 2 years ago, I began a startup and I'm not practicing law anymore. And the good point of not being a lawyer is that I don't have to wear a suit anymore. So, but I still, as Vanessa said, I still keep involved in sustainable finance in aspect of social enterprise law from the academia. So let me talk you a little bit about what I do, what does my startup does, and how that I connect that with the academia, and why it's important for lawyers to be involved with this. Let me check if I can share my screen. Okay, we're done. So this is my startup, my Matter. We sell biodegradable products, that this kind of t-shirt bag, with the aim to reduce the plastic pollution in the oceans. We are like a we focus to have a triple bottom line results. That means that of course we want to have some financial revenues, but we also have to want to have a positive environmental impact and a social impact. How do we foster environmental impact? Through the products themselves, because since the products are biodegradable, they will not harm the environment. Other products are what is called bio-based. It means that they come from mainly renewable resources, so it lowers the carbon footprint. In the social perspectives, right now, we have partnered with 4 organizations in Ecuador that also have this goal to protect the ocean. So we donate at least 1% of our sales to these 4 organizations, and we hold events together, events of mainly education events. We try to teach and educate the people on how to recycle, how to have more sustainable lives, or how to change their consumption habits. So saying this, I actually, yes, I teach a class here in Ecuador in a business school about social enterprise law. In Ecuador, in February of this year, the government enacted a new law. It's basically a public benefit corporations law. In South America, it's called Sociedades de Beneficio e Interés Colectivo, but basically it recognizes this new kind of corporations that have the goal, they have this legal requirement to pursue not only economic returns, but also they have to have a mission of social and environmental impact. And what I think it's important for lawyers to keep involved with this, because I think this is a growing trend. For me, as an entrepreneur, at some point of my career or the growing of this startup, I will need to find some funding. And as a trend that we have seen with Vanessa, we are members of the Impact and Sustainable Finance Faculty Consortium. There's a trend in the funds in the US that they are diverting the funds from companies that have a bad reputation or have for example, like oil companies or beverage companies that have too much sugar. They are diverting those funds from these kind of companies to another companies that has like a social and environmental positive impact. So I think that there is a good chances for entrepreneurs in Latin America to find this kind of funding, of new kind of funding. There is also some studies that during this coronavirus pandemic, those companies that focus more on ESG factors outperform other companies that didn't take into account ESG. I think that for lawyers, it's very important to learn about these new issues, that how to incorporate these public corporations, how to structure also like the financial instruments, because when one company wants to raise capital through equity or through debt, if the company is mission aligned, and if the investors are looking for these kind of companies, they would like to make some specific provisions that can reinforce or can guarantee the investor that the company will stay in that path, and the company will not what is called do a mission drift. That for investors, it's very important that the companies, they achieve these social and environmental goals. So I think this is a really exciting new area of law and finance, and I think it's really important for lawyers, especially for lawyers here in Latin America, countries that lack capital, to have these kind of opportunities to access and pitch investors abroad.
Well, thank you, Vicente, very much for presenting your company matter, and also to raising a topic that we will call later on about enterprise law. So during our conversation, we have talked about changes, right? How to overcome traditional models, not only in business, but also in the way we see law, and how law can link with sustainability, and why it's important to make that link. So that brings us to our second question that I want to ask you, which is basically on that switch, on that transition to sustainability law, or being sustainability lawyers. What do you think has been like the changes in your practice and also in your roles? Have working in sustainable finance have enriched your practice? What has been like the challenges you have encountered working in sustainable finance? Have you felt advocated to learn other skills in order to work in sustainable finance. And this question relates also with several changes that also were touched on in different events from Berkeley Global Society, such as blockchain and smart contracts. So I think technology and sustainability are two main topics that are on the spotlight on trends, right? And how lawyers we're moving or following with those trends. So I want to start with Ms. Gabriel. So basically, you have been a capital market lawyers, but also how have you felt you have dived into sustainable finance? What things have you learned different from law, or things that you are thinking I should have learned this in the legal school or law school, or how your practice has been reshaped by working in sustainable finance?
Okay, thank you, Vanessa. There's a cultural and generational interest in people aligning their professional careers with social goals. We see now a depth and an increasing interest of all these new generations on filling a huge gap they had in their uh, most deep interest to learn, not only to learn a career, to work and retire, but to really give back something to society. Day-to-day discussions go from really even asking if a law career is the way to really cause impact in society. Even being an architect, an economist, an engineer, all professions are now steering into probably a level of sophistication and specialization that goes not to those traditional 5, 4 year, 7 year careers, but another sort of technological knowledge specializations. And I think that how can aspiring new lawyers help to achieve impact through the legal system? How can a lawyer help aggregate capital to grow this industry? How to grow interest in the cause and to structure these deals efficiently, how to cooperate on doing the things correct. So I would say that for lawyers, such a traditional career, we really need to open our mind and learn other sorts of matters. And not only, of course, the standards ones. Of course, we need to learn about the environment. Some of us are learning social sciences. Some of us are learning business administration. If you are an entrepreneur, probably you are learning economy. Some of us lawyers are really working on the political aspects on how to produce an impact into government organizations, etc. So it's nothing only about the law, but what you really need to grow here is that social awareness. It's probably different or difficult for people my age or people older than ourselves, because the new generations are growing with that interest. They really have that social awareness. It is a matter of ourselves and probably those decision makers at this stage in our careers that need to focus on how to gain that social awareness, and that it's not a matter of compensating something that you want to do for society, but actually changing it from the inside. And probably it's not only about that volunteer work, it's not about that corporate social responsibility, which is taking some hours, or even in case of law firms where things have been measured as pro bono in many years and pro bono causes. It's not longer that. You really need to grow an interest and to have a real interest of helping the society. And then you will find the path of learning a lot of matters that you didn't knew as a lawyer, but you really need to learn. In my case, of course, it has to be a lot with measuring impact, measuring return. Actually, how if I was accustomed to see financial returns and IRRs and how to evaluate companies and cash flow valuations, etc. I really need to change how to evaluate companies that are really measured by other means of impact, and not only money and number of employees and sales and income, etc. So learning on that aspect of measuring social impact has been a challenge for me. I've been trying to read and to understand how many of the initiatives, global side initiatives, haven't had the opportunity of concurring into a single measuring standard for social impact. There are very good efforts on some universities, but there is some disparity on how to really converge in a way to measure impact. So that's a place of learning that I find fascinating, with a lot to do, a lot to learn, talking to colleagues, other professors, learning from, of course, entrepreneurs. Is, as Vicente was mentioning, they are changing the way to do business, and we need to see what affects them to see how that is actually measured on the side of investors. So that's a challenge for me. It's a real challenge for all the lawyers that want to really apply standard concepts on this new sustainability lawyers way of practice. Something that until now was a number situation, a financial return situation, but now it's a huge scale of even how to measure. And let me finish with this. We had an example in a social corporation we have in Colombia, which is called Reconciliación Colombia. And we were trying to measure how the aids that traditional companies bring into the table as financial aid or assistance, I would say. And we went to the territory, marginal territory of Colombia, and you want to see how the impact is translated into, of course, more employees, better income, better sales, better purchasing capacity, etc. And there was a study to be made on how to measure the growth in their wellness. Probably it was only measured there, and it was called very symbolically the warmth of their heart. Really, really on their heart. How you can measure their happiness, how you can measure that they are now not sleeping preoccupied. It's simply a measure of changing their warmth for the well-being of their families, their relatives, and they simply are people that now can wake up every day and be a little bit better. But that's not measurable by any other line of finance, law, econometrics, anything. But we need to measure how this really is impacting the way that people feel. Okay.
Thank you, Gabriel. Can you hear me? Thank you, Gabriel, for your comment. I feel really identified, because what I feel is also a tension, at least in the professional world, between being specialized, right, and also knowing a little bit about different areas that are not familiar with our discipline, if you want to call it that way. So when you're talking about impact measurement, so I think Luzmila and I also share your interest in impact measurement, which has nothing to do, at least from the legal perspective. And it's trying to learn other languages, other ways of analyzing a phenomenon, to put in different lenses on situation, on context, on how to measure. And also in my personal experience, also is how to learn about information, right? How to get information, how to use technology, how to build a theory of change. So it's very interesting to just be in the middle of the discussion of how I can know deep about something, but also how I can nurture myself with other areas and other knowledge. So thank you, Luis Gabriel. I want to go with Luzmila with the same question. And even more that you're an entrepreneur, that you have your company, running your company, making decisions. How has been that change? What have you learned? What are the things that you feel from specifically legal education change that should be achieved in order to enrich at some point legal education and lawyers' background?
Thank you, Vanessa. And I think that I agree a lot with what Luis Gabriel and you just told. I think that I feel also very, I don't know, like, yeah, represented by what Luis, Gabriel, and you told about our practice. And I think that for me, actually, when you invited me to this panel, I had this reflection that actually Vicente mentioned as well, that is like, I'm not acting as a lawyer necessarily right now, but then I was like, why not? Like, why that doesn't, like, what does mean right now to practice law? I think that that's something that we have to reflect. And I think that that's something that for the lawyers that are working on impact, it's a conversation that we have in our minds and with other colleagues, that it's like, which is the role of the lawyer in this impact ecosystem. So I think that for me, being an entrepreneur, you as an entrepreneur have different hats, as we said, like you are sometimes the lawyer, but sometimes you are the CEO, but sometimes you are the financial person, the accounting, and you learn a lot of being like on all places. But I think that at least in my case, I will say, like I will talk for by my experience, is that I think that for me as a lawyer, I have a structure in my mind that actually helps me to approach to different situations. And I think that sometimes we think as lawyers as only like very structured people, and that we are very like looking for all the rules to be accomplished. But I think that also we have this potential to see different kind of perspectives, and also because my experience started also in a law firm, and that helped me to advise different kind of clients and different kind of sectors and industries, that let me understand also different point of views. But at this moment, working on impact, I will say that one thing is what Luis Gabriel mentioned, that is that I don't think that it's only on lawyers and on our practice that we are feeling the need to learn more things. I think that education has changed a lot right now. I think that the law that actually you and me, like the classes and the structure that we received when we studied our undergrad, is actually different from the structure that is right now for students. And also I think that new generations are asking that kind of education that is not only being focused on the practice that they want to do after they graduate, but also to be more involved with other schools, to talk more. I think that that's something that is happening in universities, and I think that that's a really good practice, and that brings a lot of like positive things to the conversation on impact. That is that we cannot be only lawyers talking about impact related with the law, and then business people talking about how to make business with a triple bottom line, and then policymakers thinking how to make better policies and laws. But we have to talk all in the same stage, I will say. And that's something that I work for. Like, I really believe that the ecosystem development depends on all those conversations, and that we have different roles as well. I think that sometimes, as you said, also it's good to be specialized in some topics, and we need people that are specialized in topics. But at the same time, I really believe that it's really important, this kind of I don't know, like more holistic roles that are present on these areas of impact. I will say that also when you ask if it has enriched my practice, I will say that definitely. I think that because like working on the impact sector lets you also, I think, that become more sensitive, I will say. It's not only something about like now advising someone to do better with their business, to do good with their business, but it's also how you can do by your practice, do better with your practice, and like with your own businesses and the businesses that you are advising. Another thing that I think that I agree a lot with Luis Gabriel is that I think that right now is not like, I will say that I don't think that it's a niche of people talking about impact, not anymore. I think that that was a way before, but right now I think that from all perspectives and all practices, people are asking for this. Like, and I think that because what we are living right now, we all realize that it's not something that if we want to take to have present that we need to have a more sustainable world. I think that for all of us has become very realistic that we need to do change, and we need to be all part of that change. So yeah, I think that from your question of like the legal role, I think that it's a really broader role. I think that it's a really good opportunity for lawyers to be more broad about their experiences. I also, as an entrepreneur, have experienced the both sides of the relationship. So sometimes for me, being in my entrepreneur team, I'm like, okay, we cannot do that because that's something that you have to follow the rules, and that's the way you have to do it. But then sometimes I'm also in the other side saying, okay, we as lawyers need to develop a more flexible framework, like legal framework, as Luis Gabriel also mentioned. I think that definitely something that we found from 28 when we spoke with investors and social entrepreneurs is that there is a really big space for legal framework development. Like still, I think that impact investment is something that is not made all in the same way. It's really tailor-made. So you cannot also think that you can do the same thing in the same way, because each of the business are different. Each of the impact that the investors and entrepreneurs wants to have are different as the same. So yeah, I will say that I have experienced both sides of the relationship, and it's very interesting to sometimes being in one side and sometimes being in the other side. And the last thing I will say is that even though there are limitations on the legal framework, I think that in Colombia we have been innovators in the legal way of like from the legal point of view for the impact investments and like impact businesses and transactions. As Luis Gabriel mentioned, for me, I had the chance to work very close as a consultant for the social impact bonds program here in Colombia, and also to see how the legal role is very important in order to actually make it happen, something like that. So what I would say from that experience is that we need to involve the legal teams since the really beginning of the negotiations, conversations, structurations of the innovation that we want to make. Because, for example, in that case, sometimes we felt that we broke the lawyers maybe too late, for saying like that. It's not that it was too late, but maybe after a lot of conversations about innovation and about like things that were never done in that way before. And I think that that maybe helps the innovation system to work like faster, or like at least to move on for impact transactions or like innovative vehicles, for saying like that. So I would say that that's the thing that I can tell you about that question.
Thank you, Ludmila. Yes, we have a lot of hats working on this area. So thank you. I want to bring the question to Vicente. The same. How do you feel your role as a lawyer has changed working on this area? So you already mentioned, I don't feel myself right now as a lawyer, but how have you felt the change, and specifically working in the academia and teaching to non-lawyers? How do you feel working in this topic could enrich the practice of future lawyers, of students? What things should be taught in law schools? What things should be done also?
Thanks, Vanessa. Well, I have many thoughts and feelings. To the people here, I would like them to know that actually Vanessa and I and another colleague, Santiago, we began this path in the social enterprise law at the same time. It was during an event in Morrison Foerster in San Francisco in 2016. So I want to say this because after returning to Ecuador, I began to do some research about these public benefit corporations. I published an article and give some conference. So at that time, I felt like a prophet, you know, like Abraham prophet, like telling about this stuff. Now in Ecuador, in Colombia, there's new laws about these big sociedades, big or benefit corporations. So how was my role as a lawyer changed in these years? Well, I would say like in Ecuador, there's a lot of skepticism like about this new area. It's not a trend. It's not mainstream, and still a long run to get the critical mass for this kind of areas of social enterprise law and sustainable finance. But it's growing. And in the academia, I think that the advantage that academia has is that they can think forward. No, they don't have like the constraint of companies to focus on the quarterly results, in results like of sales or for every month. So I think education is a good point to start, to teach about these kinds of things. How also has changed my role? Well, I think that social enterprise law is like it comes from the just general corporate law concepts and principles. So it's just it tries to evolve and adapt to this new kind of knowledge and trends. And the bridge about the question, like yes, I teach this kind of stuff not to lawyers but to managers or entrepreneurs, businessmen in the business school, and they receive these ideas with very with arms open. Sometimes we require in the school to write theses or to present some kind of business examples, and in many cases they have adopt these kind of concepts of reporting ESG or sustainable issues, or to incorporate the business as a benefit corporation. I have a really good impression about the students because they really like this kind of tools. Yes, I think that's it. Thanks, Vanessa.
Thank you, Vicente. And we're going to go with Guillermo with the same question. Also thinking about 15 years of experience in the academic sector, teaching. How do you feel your role as a lawyer, not only as a professor, but also as a practitioner in environmental law and in sustainable business has changed? What do you think from the academic sector and on the working on the law firm should be made? What is also challenging us as lawyers right now?
I do fully agree with all my colleagues and the panelists on the things that have changed for me. I would just add two things. One is that in my case, being a sustainability lawyer, coming from an environmental and social background, it was the opposite way. I mean, what I had to learn basically was to understand how financial institutions and financial instruments work, like in practice, and particularly not only from an impact evaluation standpoint, which is of course important, but this is something that is closer to what I have been doing for the past 15 years than understanding, for example, risk as financial institutions do. So this was something that I had to learn, and I'm currently still learning. Let's say, you know, it's a different mindset to speak with a financial lawyer about risk that to speak with a regulatory, environmental, and social lawyer about risk, and risk and and the risk and the impact that stems out from that risk. Yes. So we are used to working with impact. I mean, from a regulatory perspective, I mean, we are used to conducting environmental evaluations, social impact evaluations. Now the question is how to harmonize those standards. But this was something that I was, let's say, used to doing, but not to understanding risk from a financial standpoint. Yes. So it has been a challenge for me, for example, to understand and very interesting challenge indeed to see how sometimes we speak about the same concept, but not necessarily understand it or evaluate it in the same way. So making bridges between our practices has been the main challenge. So it's not, for me, in my experience, it's not necessarily talking about things that are different. It's talking about the same in a different way. And we have to learn how to, harmonize those two ways of understanding concepts. And this has been absolutely interesting, because of course it has involved the need to know people, apart from the environmental and social world. Let's say not necessarily engineers and social professionals I work with on a daily basis, but nowadays I'm working with banking and finance people and risk management people, and they have their own vision on how things are done, and I'm learning a lot from them. So that has been quite interesting for my practice. From the teaching standpoint, I've seen a tendency of, firstly, to see more people in my courses. When we began teaching, uh, there weren't so many people interested in this. So we're seeing a lot of new generation, the new people stemming from the new generations, but not only and not necessarily. We're receiving it at the universities, people, from management, from CEOs and so on, that are interested in getting to learn about these concepts and how to deal with these new risks that are being identified, and how to they have to tackle those risks in a more sustainable way. um, and this is something that is good, of course. And from the law perspective, I would tend to say that we are trying to introduce our students to concepts of other disciplines, as you said. So it's not only explaining how law works, it's about explaining how businesses work. It's about explaining how financial work and analysis work. So it's a matter of getting them in touch with these concepts, so that they are familiarized with them and that they can introduce them within their own practices. Because as you all said, nowadays law, at least sustainability law, um, cannot be understood just as a way of teaching regulations and standards and principles. Is not just that. It's about how in practice sustainability can be achieved. And that involves the need for teachers, for professors, for lecturers, to understand the whole picture and to try to, bring that knowledge to students as well.
Thank you, Guillermo, for that very helpful insight. I think the risk example is really illustrative on how the same concept can be viewed by different people from different perspectives. So thank you again. And we're going to go with the last question, which I try to merge it. And I want to link it with the title and the topic for today, Sustainable Finance, a Vision for the Future. And also linking with what Vicente said about being at some point or feeling at some point profit. But right now, it's no longer prophecy. It's right now reality. It's going on. It's rolling at different paces in different countries. But I think the region is rolling up. So the last question for you, before the audience have some questions from the chat, it's basically, what do you think Colombia and Ecuador in terms of enterprise law, they're good soil for building sustainable finance initiatives uh, related to Latin America also. Why you think it's good soil in very general terms? Why do you think Colombia is standing up in Latin America in this topic. And also, what is also needs to be done in the future. I mean, where are we going? Which is our vision of sustainable finance in our country? So I would like to start with Luis Gabriel. What do you think about this question?
Okay, thank you very much, Vanessa. And I think the frame you put to this discussion is really interesting. I mean, what can we done? How is Ecuador and Colombia and many other Latin American countries ready to become a place to really exercise the impact investing activity and exercising sustainability law? What I can say, of course, it's our social uh, mixtures and our social needs and our environmental, let's say, environmental status as biodiverse countries and then countries with a lot of ethnicities, with a lot of social needs, where we have a very complex, let's say, um, financial gap and social inequality, are particular countries that need really to be part of of this global trend. And we can see a number of international funds coming to the country to see projects and to help build this ecosystem. I see the opportunity very big, and one can say that one of the activities that could be a starting point is to begin the creation of a legal framework of blended finance um, projects. Uh, that's a real key to begin with. For example, we can see projects where for many years it was the government, the entity that was injecting capital, and then we saw some um, altruists foundations and of course philanthropic foundations try to inject capital without expecting any return. Then we began seeing a little bit of, for example, the social impact bonds, or for example, the green bonds and carbon bonds, for example. And those are really financial system instruments, but they are now capturing the interest of institutional investors to deploy their capital into projects. But if we don't have proper rules for that blended finance activity, where some of the layers could be a priority on the cash flow and other ones are going to have some subordination and and their interest would be more on the impact side, etc. Those regulations are a way to come with a solution. And I think that blended finance, it will be a way to continue capitalizing the interest of the government, of philanthropic institutions, but then create some layers for those other investors that want to create impact, perhaps with lower returns, but again with a better structure, a legal structure. Um, Another example, Vicente mentioned, are the benefit corporations. We have a recently regulation enacted here where we have already that sort of corporation in place. However, the exact way, in my opinion, the law was enacted is not the true benefit corporation. I mean, the exact way we were imagining it, because there are some divergent interests yet to cover. And we are all afraid here in Colombia, at least on this level of trying to build this ecosystem of impact investing, of those, what you call now, for example, the greenwashers, or the companies that are now trying to turn into a benefit corporation only because of reputational matters, and putting in place programs that are not different from that assistential programs that we have seen over 30 years ago. So we need to take a look into that and focus really on how to have better um, standards on the law, and how to introduce this academic space where new courses are taught in impact investing. I think there's the way of the law and the way the academic and the universities could really cooperate on how to take advantage of this society that we have in Andean countries.
Thank you, Luis Gabriel, for that insight, also for bringing out the initiatives that Colombia have taken, not only in social impact bonds, but also in public corporation bills and regulation. And I want to raise the question also to Vicente. Yes, the phenomenon on surveillance, exactly on greenwashers and how regulation is actually embedding the sense of benefit corporations is one of the topics, one of the big challenges. And for Colombia, as a regulation pioneer, if you want to call it that way, Ecuador is just following our steps as well. So I want to bring the question to Vicente. Which is your perspective from Ecuador, from corporate law, from benefit corporations, how Ecuador stands in Latin America in sustainability topics, in sustainable finance, and in enterprise law related to benefit corporations?
Hello, can you hear me? Yeah, thanks. I had some connection problems. About the last question, please let me introduce something I forgot to tell about the role of the lawyers. Like 3 years ago, I went to Peru to something called Congreso de Abogados B. This means like it was like a conference about like benefit corporation lawyers. That was a really interesting event at the time. There is a group called Red Latinoamericana de Abogados de Impacto. It means like it's a network about lawyers that are involved in this benefit corporation movement. So I think it's exciting to know that there's a lot of people in different countries interested about this topic. And another thing that I have been thinking about, like like people that there are these international rankings called like Latin Lawyer or Chambers and Partners. I think that in the maybe 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years, but at some point, I think that this kind of magazines, these kind of publications, they will rank lawyers that specialize in these areas. Actually, in some big firms like this called Morrison Foerster in California, there are some lawyers that in the area of expertise, they put like a social enterprise law, impact investment, etc., etc. As like in traditional firms, there are lawyers that they show the expertise like in corporate law, labor law, or litigation, wherever. And so I think that at some point, this new field of law will be so mature that this kind of a publication like Chambers or Latin Lawyer, they will rank this area of law. And thanks for letting me say about this. Forgot in the another question about what you said now, but Vanessa. What's happening in Ecuador? Ecuador hosts annually the CLIC, is Cumbre Latinoamericana Inversión de Impacto. It's like it's an annual event that gathers like investors, entrepreneurs, NGOs, government officials. They talk about the public policies, and some entrepreneurs, they actually pitch their companies, and also some impact investors from the US and Europe. They also tell me what they're telling like people here, what are the trends, why they want to invest in Latin America, why they don't want to invest in Latin America. The mainly concerns are like corruption and violence, but Latin America has like positive demographics and a positive, in the long term, a positive economic outlook. So what I have heard is like an investor that are really attracted in Latin American market. Also, like Banco Pichincha, they issue some green bonds. It was some like emission of $20 million. Mainly, those bonds were mainly bought by like BIT, the BIT Invest, the Interdevelopment Bank. And so I think there's some room in the future for this kind of area, impact investment, sustainable finance. Now it's marginal, but I think I see a good perspective in the long term.
Okay. Thank you, Vicente. Yes, we're optimistic. We're going slow, but as you said and you mentioned, it's rolling. I want to pass the question to Guillermo also. Why do you think Colombia, from your experience with the entities you have worked on, why do you think it is at some point good soil for this area, for this industry? What other things do you think Colombia have like special, if we can call it that way, related to Latin America? And the additional question is, which things do you think lack of initiative, lack of work? What things also should be done in Colombia to speed up the industry of sustainable farming?
Thank you, Vanessa. Well, I make part of the board of the Colombian Green Chamber of Commerce. So in that capacity, I have been able to identify several projects addressing these issues. I mean, there is a huge opportunity in terms of sustainable business, sustainable innovation, social impact initiatives. I think that this is a country that I would, categorize as one of those in which social and environmental innovation is fundamental from both the social, I mean, the people of Colombia as such, but also as a priority of the national government. So we do have a lot of public policy um, addressing green growth and sustainability, decarbonization of the economy, uh, mm, respect for human rights within businesses, and so on and so forth. And we have been, for quite a long, one of those leading countries in terms of issuing policy instruments that foster these types of initiatives within the country. So I do sincerely think that this is fertile soil for these kinds of projects. Of course, there's a lot to do, and I think that we have been discussing all around this morning that will still lack some, more, let's say, clear rules and definitions on how to address the impact measurement, maybe to how to address some issues regarding the responsibility of investors if they do or they do not have a specific obligation in order to promote investing in environmental and social issues, or at least to take care of social and environmental risk in due manner. So those are things that we're still trying to figure out. But in terms of opportunities, I would tend to say that Colombia, from a public policy perspective at least, is one good place to be. The second thing that is important to note about the country, in my view, and having this experience at the Colombian Green Chamber of Commerce, is that, as I said, there is a lot of projects, but not necessarily a good connection between projects and investors. So what Luzmila is doing is fundamental in order to connect the two dots, and moreover, to connect those dots with the public policy aiming at addressing, for example, the sustainable development goals and all the other, let's say, public policies that have been issued on green growth, decarbonization of the economy, and so on and so forth. And there is a third challenge, in my view, and is to understand that Colombia is big, and within Colombia we have like mini countries. So the differences between the territories are 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 that big in sometimes that you can, you know, be in places like Bogota or Cali or Medellin or Barranquilla, huge cities, well-developed cities, and then you go to the Amazon basin, and then you go to the Orinoquia, or maybe you go to the south, or even within some parts of a country, in the central part of a country, you will find some very big difference in terms of environmental and social development. So uh, I think that what Luzmila said is very important. When we address these issues, let's try to, you know, understand that differences should be considered, and maybe projects and regulations should be, you know, tailor made to give enough flexibility in order for everyone to be within that. Because if we do that in a very stringent way, we will hamper people from doing things that they want to do, and maybe we will lose some, you know, gains arising from impact from social and environmental initiatives. But this is a big discussion that we still are having, and not only from the academic standpoint, but also from a, let's say, practical standpoint. Um, but in my general view is that we do have the energy, we do have the capacity to overcome these hurdles. It's just a matter of, you know, time, and we have already seen a lot of good initiatives, and particularly in my view, we have seen a change of mindset. So we at Brigard Urrutia, as a law firm, have seen a lot of businesses moving towards big corporations, and if they do not want to go with the big, they will go with the B corporations. So they are adhering somehow to one of the social and environmental or human rights standards. They have that mindset in place already, particularly big corporations. Uh, Maybe there is a, well, I cannot say that each and every one of the companies in Colombia is going that way. Of course not. But I have seen, in my view at least, there is a change of mindset, and I expect that this mindset will prevail, and continue, you know, to add to this very good environment to do sustainable businesses within the country.
Thank you, Guillermo, again for your insight. We're gonna go with Luzmila. I'm gonna shorten a little bit your intervention, but as well, I mean, don't feel pressure. Thank you, Guillermo.
Thank you, Vanessa. And I think that Guillermo and Luis Gabriel have mentioned almost all that I wanted to mention, at least about the environment here in Colombia. And also Vicente mentioned as well that I think that we shouldn't talk about only the countries, but the region. So I think that's something that is happening, and Vicente mentioned it, is that there are the creation of, for example, the national advisory boards in different countries, but also networks of lawyers working for impact. And I think that this is very helpful, and I think that it's very necessary for having the conversation as a region, and we can move on in that way as well. I will add maybe to what Luis Gabriel and Guillermo mentioned, that I think that in 2811 we realized, actually we launched Ecosistema Impacto with Colombia, like with a focus in Colombia, because we realized that Colombia was one of the countries where the impact investment ecosystem was moving faster. And we realized that also that there were a lot of actors here, like actually based here in Colombia. So, for example, as you can tell in the platform, we saw that there are more than 30 impact investors that are based in Colombia, even though the majority of them are from the United States and Europe. And I think that that's one of the opportunity that I want to mention right now, and it's that we have a huge space for national investors to get involved in this ecosystem, because I think that there are, as Luis Gabriel mentioned, for example, Fondo Inversor has made a huge and very important path. I think that they are working in this during the last 10 years, and I think that having a Colombian impact investment fund was something that actually inspired others to come to the country, actually, and others to like actually form their impact investment funds. So, but I think that that's one definitely opportunity that we have, and I think that also a challenge that we have as people working in the impact sector, and is that to bring more investors to this area. But also, and I think that is not a difficult task, because what I have seen is, for example, the family offices and also the new generations on like big companies in Colombia, they want this to happen at their businesses. Like they want to bring impact in their businesses if they haven't do it yet, and they want to do more than philanthropy. They don't want to keep with those strategies that they were working on the past. And I think that gives us a really good opportunity to advance on the construction of this ecosystem. Also, I would say that there is an opportunity, and I think that Luis Gabriel was the one that mentioned it, on the rural area of Colombia and the biodiversity country that we are, as Guillermo mentioned, is that we still have a really good opportunities on good opportunities on territories, but still the rural area of Colombia is very disconnected in very many ways. So I think that we need to work on that. Also, there is a space, and we have been talking about that in all this conversation, for regulatory advance. So we need to work in a legal framework. We need to work, and not only in a legal framework, I think that also the business framework has to change, and also the policy framework also needs to advance. So I will say that I will add that to the conversation. And also I think that a challenge that someone mentioned in a question in the chat before was about the impact measurement. And I think that that's a huge conversation, and I think that it's a really important conversation that we have to have from different perspectives. And I think that one of the main challenges is that there is not an only standard to do impact measurement. And I really believe that is not like, that's not necessarily the path, but definitely in order to grow this ecosystem, we need to be able to compare investments. We need to be able to see if one investment makes more impact than the other. And also, I think that this brings to something that I wanted to mention, and is that we need to being able to teach the investors how to allocate their capital into impact investment. And I think that in order to do that, we need to more, as I think that Luis Gabriel, Guillermo, or Vicente mentioned, to include more of these topics on classes, on universities, on different practices as well. And I think that also to understand that, as I mentioned before, I think that the investors need to know how to allocate their capital, but also which are the vehicles that best suited with to meet the impact that they want to make. So I think that it's different for every case. And I will just mention a last thing, and is that because of these opportunities and challenges that we realize, is that we are doing this lab that I mentioned you. And I think that in those kind of, I think that we really believe from 28 that these kind of spaces will help to to develop more the ecosystem, and to create a more communicate network as well. So we really hope that we can tell you about our launching next year, and tell you more about what we learned, and also have many of you involved in this experience that we want to have, because we really believe that this kind of experiences, when you give students hands-on experience and you give them the contact with the real world, for saying like that, with impact investors, and also impact investors can tell the students and social entrepreneurs how an impact process happens. I think that that's super important for the development of the ecosystem. So thank you, Vanessa, and all the panelists and colleagues that are listening to us today.
Well, we're very excited, Luzmila, to know about Innovation Lab, your initiative. So keep us on the loop on the development of the project. Well, because of time, I would like to ask our panelists to leave your information, name, and email in case some of the audience want to reach you. I'm checking the chat, and Luzmila very nicely already responded to some of the questions related to impact measurement. So once again, I'm really, really happy to share this space with you guys. This conversation, I think, was really inspiring. I hope for the rest of the audience that they're watching us from different parts of the world, raises more questions, more than answers sometimes. So I want to thank again all our panelists, Luzmila, Vicente, Guillermo, Luis Gabriel, and of course, Oban, for making this happen, for arranging this in Latin America, for letting us raise the question, raise the curiosity for our audience. And well, I hope we can build more and build better in the future. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Vanessa. Thank you,
very
everyone.
much.
We are looking forward to be soon in Colombia to have another discussion together. This is the purpose, and this is how it should work. So thank you to all the panelists. Thank you to the audience. You were between 300 and 400 people to following us today. We will also post those videos and keep in touch. Stay tuned. We are coming back and hope coming back soon in Colombia. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks
Thank
a lot,
you.
Vanessa. Ovan, thank you.
To you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Guillermo, Vicente, Luzmila. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Vanessa. It was great. How do you feel?
I feel really happy and I feel really hot because they were like mowing the lawn. So I have to close the window for almost 2 hours. So I'm like excited, but I'm really, really happy about it. Thank you so much. I hope
Thank you to
this
you.
was a good event. They're great. I mean, they're really, really like top of the notch
Yes.
in this topic. And how many people were connected? How many you mentioned? 400?
We are between 300 and 400, which
Oh
is
my God,
yes,
that's
it is a really good number.
crazy. Wow, that's a big number. I just got your email from Martin. It's Manuel.
Yes, Manuel would like, I think he's maybe still connected. Manuel is a BGS member. He's really involved in venture capital, private equity in Germany. And he's also planning to organize a couple of events. His law firm is a leading one, having 3 offices in 3 different cities in Germany. And maybe he will reach to you in order to have those talk about sustainability. But just to be back on the performance, it was, Emma, please, Emma, you can stop the live, please, and also the record of the video. Thank you, Emma. So it was great. I really enjoyed it. And Vanessa, we need to keep this word that next time we come to Colombia and we try to make it happen.
Hopefully, okay. Yes. So Oban, thank you so much. Yes, I'll reach out to Manuel, and it was really exciting. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
It's a lot of energy. I know it's a lot of energy. It's some stress, but you did it very well. Congratulations. Yes. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you really much. Yeah, I mean, virtuality has opened new roads.
So, let's hope it will open minds. Bye-bye,
of course. Let's keep in touch. Have a great day. Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.